In this small town, one of Britain's finest poets was born. Welcome to Alloway in Ayrshire for tonight's Songs of Praise. It was Robert Burns' birthday on Friday. We'll be celebrating that at a traditional Burns supper. This week we've also been remembering the Holocaust. We'll see one woman's work to build bridges with victims of persecution. And with some songs from Capercailly's Karen Matheson. Alloway started out as a couple of landed estates outside the market town of Ayr. Since then it's expanded into a modern and rather comfortable suburb. Just an hour's drive from Glasgow, it's a place to commute from and retire to. And right at the centre of Alloway's history, of course, is a global star, the poet Robert Burns, whose father moved here in 1752 and with his own hands built his family a home. Burns wasn't just a wonderful poet. He collected the words and music of many old Scots tunes that could otherwise have been lost. Today his work's known right across the world. Auld Lang Syne, My Love is Like a Red, Red Rose, some of the most exquisite and evocative songs in the Scots and English tongues are his. Tonight we'll be singing hymns to his tunes and some of his own words too. But we start with a 20th century hymn, Sing for God's Glory. All over the world at this time of year, a strange ritual takes place. Fine wines, best whiskey, and some odd-looking food is brought in so someone can talk to it.
Fair fa your honest sonsy face, great chieftain with a pudding race. Aboon them a' ye tak your place. Pinch, tripe or thorn, weel are ye wordy wi' grace as lang's my earn. His knife, see rustic labour dicht, and cut ye up wi' a ready slicht, trenching your gushing entrails bricht like ony ditch. And then, oh, what a glorious sight. Warm reeking, rich.
Burns has been translated into more than 50 languages. He's popular in Russia and even in Japan, where there are pedestrian crossings which play Auld Lang Syne. Every year at this time, right across the world, his memory is kept alive in the affectionate ritual of the Burns Supper, where his poetry is recited and his songs are sung.
Oh, my love's like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Oh, my love's like the melody that's sweetly played in tune. As fair art thou, my bonny lass, so deep in love am I, and I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas can dry, till all the seas can dry, my dear, till all the seas can dry, and I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas can dry.
Burns played an important part in recent Scottish history when his poem about the equality of all people, "A man's a man for all that," was sung in the presence of the Queen at the opening of the Scottish Parliament.
The rank is but the guinea stamp, the man's the gowd for all that.
Little more than a stone's throw from the Alloway Church is the lovely river immortalised in the Burns song "Ye banks and braes o' Bonnie Doon." The Alloway congregation regularly use the tune to sing the words of an adapted Burns grace. The house where Robert Burns was born is now a museum, where visitors can experience life as the poet knew it for his first 7 years.
Well, it was probably a very common, everyday sort of a life of its time. This was the home that Burns's father built with his own hand. The animals were in the byre, which was alongside Robert and the family, and it would be a hard life. But it was rich in upbringing, with his mother singing around the house, and Burns's father, who was a strict but fair and loving father.
Burns was a satirist, among other things, and the church frequently got the wrong side of his pen, didn't it?
Burns himself knew his own strengths and weaknesses, and he observed the same strengths and weaknesses in other people and other bodies, and that included the church. And if he saw where there should be no hypocrisy, and there was hypocrisy, he was going to write about it with some passion and some feeling.
He certainly did. Holy Willie's Prayer is a wonderful piece of
is.
satire, a dramatic monologue in which, I mean, poor old Holy Willie is simply flayed alive.
Well, he was a man of the church who was supposed to represent all that was good and honest and upright about the church. And when you read or when you hear Holy Willie's Prayer, you realise, of course, what was really going on. And of course, hypocrisy was the prime theme of that particular poem.
Lord, in thy day of vengeance try him. Lord, visit them what did employ him, and pass not in thy mercy by them, nor hear their prayer. But for thy people's sake, destroy them, and dinna spare. But Lord, remember me and mine wi' mercies temporal and divine, that I for grace and gear may shine, excelled benign, and all the glory shall be thine. Amen. Amen.
And then you got the other side of things when he was perhaps writing something like Cotter's Saturday Night, which was about his upbringing. It was about religion in the heart of the family, the daily Bible readings, which was something that his father did with him and with his siblings on a daily basis.
But among Burns' best-known works are his love songs.
There was a lass and she was fair, at Kirk and Market to be seen, when our fairest maids were met, the flower o' them bonny Jean. Aye, she wrought her country work, and she sang so joyfully. The bonniest bird upon the bush had ne'er a lighter heart than she. But hawks will rob the tender joys that bless the lint whiteness. Frost will blight the fairest flower, love will break the soundest rest. For she met a Brian lad, the pride o' his clan, and he had house and sheep and kine, and bonny horses 9 or 10. As in the bosom of the stream, the moon dwells at dewy eve, so trembling pure was tender love within the breast o' bonny Jean. Mony's a bird sang sweet o' love, flowers bloom o'er the dead, and close to her he oft did lay, and whispered this his tender tale. Oh, Chinny fair, I love thee dear, and will ye gang wi' me At length she blushed a sweet consent, and love was aye between them twain.
Robert Burns isn't Alloway's only international export. A member of today's Alloway congregation, plastic surgeon Jack Mustardi, retired in his early 70s and then went to Ghana to treat children with burns and skin diseases. He raised funds from all over the world, including Alloway Church, to establish that country's first plastic surgery unit. Since then, he's continued to be a regular visitor until finally retiring this year, aged 85.
Why did I do it? Well, first of all, like this mountain climbing thing, because the problem was there. But not just that. When I saw people all over the place, children begging at the street corners with deformities, their legs twisted or with burned arms and so on, I just felt that we have to do something to help these people. At that time, I had no idea quite what we could do. So I suppose that was why I did it. When we started operating on quite a large scale, half the patients we saw in the clinic didn't come back for their surgery because at that time the IMF had put various impositions on Ghana, like other countries that I owed to the IMF. And the two that I thought were dreadful, first was no free education, but worst of all, no free medicine or medical treatment. And that was the biggest problem that we had, was dealing with this. We did see quite a number who came back for one reason or another. And it was very, very satisfying to see patients whom you knew would have been really badly disabled if we hadn't had the chance to operate them. Yes, that was a great reward for what we were doing.
So you did have a sense that God was in this?
I did, very much so, very much so. Ghana, as it happens, is a very religious country. It's got more churches, I think, than any other country I know. And that went down well when they knew the background of why I was doing it. And that was, I felt, God's will, and I accepted that as the plan that I should follow in life.
Asylum seekers have regularly been in the headlines this year. When Madge Irving, a member of Alloway Church, heard that an asylum seeker in Glasgow had been murdered, she was moved to action. She set off to Sight Hill, where the asylum seekers had been housed, to see how she could help the small church there to build bridges with the incomers.
Some of them were coming from persecution, where they had to flee for their lives. But frankly, I don't ask a lot of questions. I just work with people, and it's not really my responsibility to question how they've come there. We're just there to offer help.
Her first journey, with a couple of bikes, has grown into weekly trips delivering toys, computers and all sorts of donations from Alloway's congregation to give to the refugees in Sight Hill. Among the people she's met there, she's become particular friends with Christine Bendo, who at the end of last year was baptised a Christian.
I'll get some more things. Christine was looking forward to that day for weeks. Her face lit up when she talked about the day I'm going to be baptised. It meant so much to her. And to have a letter from her father in Albania saying, "These are my children and we hand them over to your care, to God's care," and writing, you know, "We know that Christ died for us." That was a very moving. That was from a closed communist society. So people there had obviously held on to a belief. But Christine never knew about Jesus.
As we've been remembering the horrors of the Holocaust this week, is there a sense in which the work that you're doing with the asylum seekers at Sight Hill is relevant to the hopes we all have that something like that would never, ever happen again?
I have a little notice on my door. I got it one Easter, and it's been there for years. It says, "Rejoice, you matter to God." And I think that's a sentiment that we need to keep very much in the forefront of our minds. We all matter to God, and whether we're Jewish or Albanian or communist, we matter. And God doesn't put one in front of the other.
See the shadow? Just after 1 o'clock.
Trips out together have developed the friendship of Christine's family and Madge's family, which in turn have made Madge reassess her values.
I was taking for granted what is actually huge wealth. I was thinking we're not very wealthy people, we're very ordinary. And it suddenly brought home to me how blessed we are. And you realise that some people do not have that, they have nothing. It's a seismic change for me. I thought I was a good Christian doing all the right things. There's so much crowd into your life that you miss the real essence of just the love of God and showing the love of God and not asking and judging and needing to know everybody's story. That's nothing to do with me. It's just reaching out to people.
My song is love unknown, my Saviour's love to me, love to the loveless shown that they might lovely be. Oh, who am I that for my sake my Lord should take frail flesh and die? He came from his blessed throne, salvation to bestow, but men made strange and none that longed for Christ would know. But oh, my friend indeed, who at my need his life did spend. Sometimes they strew his way, and his sweet praises sing, resounding all the day and for his death they thirst and cry. Why, what hath my Lord done? What makes this rage and spite? He made the lame to run, he gave the blind their sight. Sweet injuries, yet they at these themselves displease and 'gainst him rise. My song is love unknown, my Saviour's love to me, love to the loveless shone that they might lovely be. Oh, who am I that for my sake my Lord should take frail flesh and die?
Dear God, thank you for opportunities to build bridges, bringing your people together.
Help us to keep a balance in our lives, to move into a new awareness of where our strengths and weaknesses are.
May Jesus help me to live in his family, and may everything that we hope for be according to his will.
Amen.
And so it's goodbye from Alloway. We end with something which has defined the singing and worship in Scotland for many centuries, the metrical setting of the Psalms. Here, it's Psalm 148. Next week, Diane Louise Jordan is at the RAF Search and Rescue UK Control Centre in Kinloss, celebrating 60 years of the service.